Today we're going to talk about video games again. This will be the third entry this week. So today we're going to talk about single player games because the last two we did, well, I guess Crackdown. Some of the first two were single player, but you get the idea. So today we're going to talk about single player games. We're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3. We're going to talk about Star Wars: The Fallen Order, and we're going to talk about Kakarot, or Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So first things first, we're going to start with Kingdom Hearts 3. So Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a lot of layers to it. So first of all, this game came out years after, I think even the latest game was in like 2012 or something like that. And that wasn't a main game. Like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 came out, I think, pre-2010. So we're just now getting this third game, and I believe this came out in 2019. But I'm glad they took their time with it, because I think there's like 9 or 12 games total. If you took your time and played through all of them, the story is pretty good. It's really good. It's really, because of how many different games they had and how many different perspectives they gave throughout the story, it's pretty well, like, there's not a lot of holes in it, in my opinion. Like, if you think too hard about it, you'll find something to like be like, well, that doesn't make sense. But for the most part, it's a really good story. It's really, there's a lot of depth to it, I could say. So the third one was highly anticipated ever since the second one, really. And then every game, so a lot of the other games are like PSP or 3DS and things like that. So if you didn't play those, that's pretty much the main point of this. If you didn't play all the games and you just played 1, 2, and 3, you'd be missing a lot of story. So with that being said, if you, just saw this game on the shelf and were like, hey, I want to give that a try, and you just plugged it in, you would be completely lost. You wouldn't understand anything. Nothing would make sense, but the gameplay is fun. So I highly recommend this if you've played the other games, at the bare minimum 1 and 2. If you're a player on Xbox, this is the first time that Kingdom Hearts has been on Xbox. However, they just put Kingdom Hearts 1.2 and 2. I don't know. But basically, it's the other 9 games, they put them on the Xbox in like new digital releases. So you have a way to play them now, and I highly recommend it because the series overall is fantastic. And there's only a couple of games where gameplay is different from the main games, and even then, most of them are pretty fun. Probably the one that's the least amount of fun is Chain of Memories. That was originally a game for the Game Boy Advanced, if you remember the old like cube-looking one with the flip out. That one probably translated like the worst to console, but it's still not unbearable. Like if you sat down and learned how to play it, it would still be fun, but the other ones are definitely much better. The ones for PSP especially, because those ones are designed for basically, the PSP is basically a PlayStation controller, so the controls aren't that different. With all that being said, Kingdom Hearts 3, highly anticipated, and personally, I thought the game did a fantastic job. The ending is a little more open-ended than I would like. It's not the definitive ending we were looking for, but there's so much cool stuff in this game. So one of the main things about the Kingdom Hearts universe is you're bouncing around the Disney universe. So for instance, if you can see on here, this is like Olaf. So you go to the Frozen world down here. I'm not entirely sure what you go to Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Big Hero 6, Tangled, and then Pirates of the Caribbean. I think there's another one or two, I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, as far as the Kingdom Hearts game, I thought this was fantastic. I thought the gummy ship system was probably one of the best ones out of the franchise, which is kind of saying a lot because the second one was a lot of fun as well. But yeah, this game was really, really fun. I think this one's not as popular as like other game franchises, mostly because this one was on PlayStation and it was a PlayStation exclusive for so long. But now Xbox players, not just Kingdom Hearts 3, but like I said, the other 9 games are available on Xbox, and I believe they're like between $30 and $40 each. And when you think about it, sure, that's kind of expensive, but they come with like 6 games each, or 4 or 5 games each. So it's really not that bad. And I don't want to get too much into the story. This is mostly about gameplay, and that about does it. This is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. At the time of recording, there is a DLC for it. However, I haven't played it just yet. I'm still playing some other stuff, so I haven't circled back to playing Kingdom Hearts just yet. But that about does it for Kingdom Hearts. So the next one we're going to move on to is Star Wars: The Jedi Fallen Order. So this one, just like Kingdom Hearts 3, was highly anticipated. Ever since it was announced, everybody was like, that sounds like fun. Because the last time we've gotten a story-driven, single-player Star Wars game was The Force Unleashed 2, I believe. So it's been a minute, because that came out when 360 was still the main platform. So this game, graphically, it looks fantastic. It doesn't say 4K up here, but it is Xbox One enhanced, or Xbox One X enhanced HDR. So that, you know, it looks pretty good. The game is very, very clean. I had a lot of fun with it. This is one of those rare times where I was actually able to play it when it launched, and mostly because we didn't have any of our stuff because we were still moving. So I just had my Xbox, and this was basically one of the only games I had. So I did get the deluxe edition, which really the only thing it does is adds a couple skins. I started off with the orange lightsaber crystal, and then there's also like a director's cut behind the scenes kind of like extra video thing. So the game is really, really fun. It's pretty easy to progress and level up because you level up just by defeating enemies and things like that. So gaining levels isn't hard, but gaining levels isn't like, it doesn't scale enemies based on your level, I don't believe. Like, you can go back to the original planets and just wipe out the enemies. It's all about how many, like, kind of like how good you get at the game. So the game, from what I understand, is very similar to Dark Souls, where you can't just take all the hits or you're just going to die every time. You have to work in dodging and parrying and like getting in combos and like just more finesse gameplay. So that being said, finesse gameplay isn't really my style, but this game was fantastic. The force powers were fun. The lightsaber combos were fun. The lightsaber abilities you could get were fun. You start off the game with, you know, a single lightsaber, but you can very, very early on go to one of the planets, or one of the first 2 or 3 planets that's open or available to you. You can go to one of them right off the bat and get the double-sided lightsaber, which actually does have an impact on gameplay, because throughout the game you'll see in various areas you'll get swarmed, and you'll have like either a lot of stormtroopers or like a lot of aliens swarming you. And the double-sided lightsaber is more of like a crowd control kind of lightsaber. So it's really good for that, especially when you go to Dathomir and fight the Night Sisters. Oh my gosh, the Night Sister zombies will swarm you like crazy, and the double-sided lightsaber is definitely the best tool to use. But there's other powers too, like Kylo Ren from the new trilogy, how he can do like the force freeze kind of thing. Your character in this game can do that too. So like I said, the force abilities in this game are awesome. The lightsaber combat is great. I had a lot of fun with both. And the variations in enemies is kind of insane. Like, it blew my expectations out of the water. So there's different kinds of purge troopers that will come after you. There's ones with like a giant axe. There's ones with like 2 like little stun sticks or whatever. There's ones with like regulars, and then so many different kinds of enemies. I thought it was fantastic. And then you get to the Inquisitors. So I thought the Inquisitors was a cool, like a touch of lore, really. So personally, I don't consider anything out of the first 6 movies, I don't consider anything outside of that canon by any means. So anything like that comes outside of that is more like, to me, fan fiction. But something I've always found interesting was the Inquisitors. Outside of the books, I believe the only other time the Inquisitors are brought to any other kind of media is the Star Wars Rebels cartoon. I could be wrong on that, but from what I'm familiar with, that's about it. So seeing the Inquisitors and actually seeing them hunt somebody down across, like, you know, multiple planets in the galaxy or something, that was really cool. I thought that was a lot of fun. You actually fight 2 different Inquisitors in the game, and then there's a special boss fight at the end. I won't spoil, even though I'm sure trailers everywhere have spoiled it. So that's pretty cool too. You get to see 1 or 2, I think just 1 character from the main Star Wars universe. Everyone else, I think, is just from this game. Again, I'm a Star Wars normie. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me. But from what I understand, most of these characters are original to the story and to the game. But again, the game was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I had no problem going back and like looking for collectibles that I had missed and things like that. It was just tons and tons of fun. The only thing that bugged me, and this is a very, very, very minor gripe, but how long it takes you. So when you start the game, you can either make your lightsaber blue or green, or in my case, orange, because I pre-ordered it. You can't access any other colors until probably 85 to 90% of the way through the campaign. So I thought that was a little disappointing, but other than that, like I said, that was a very, very minor thing. Like everything else was fantastic. Like I've already talked about, the graphics is great, the force powers, the lightsaber fighting, the puzzle jumping isn't that bad. Overall, I thought it was a really, really good game, and I think it got overshadowed a little bit because it came out around the same time as Modern Warfare and things like that. But I really, really liked it. So last game we're going to cover, and I know this isn't going to be too huge with a lot of people, but this is going to be Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So anybody that knows me knows I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball. I have been since I was a kid. At one point, I owned most of the series on DVD because of a friend of my dad's. He gave them to me. I thought that was awesome. But this game is fantastic, especially if you've never watched Dragon Ball Z in your entire life. This would capture most of it for you, and you get pretty much the highlights from the Dragon Ball Z experience. So a big problem with anime when it is when it's being from when it's being translated from a manga to like the show, they added a lot of filler into the show because they're giving the writers time to catch up. Now, a big problem with the original Dragon Ball Z series that aired on TV was there was a lot of that filler in there, and there was a lot of it's unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to the overall story. I personally hate story filler. That's part of why Bleach is kind of more painful to watch. I normally just read the manga for that. So with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, playing this game, you get the main story experience, and the side missions, while optional, cover some of the stuff that would be, in the filler of the episodes. So you could play this game and get like most of the Dragon Ball experience. Now, the other thing I want to mention is how clean this game is. This game visually is fantastic. When it comes to the cutscenes, you almost feel like you're watching the show, but then like high res, because obviously the show came out in the 90s. So it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. The combat is simple. A lot of people will like gripe and complain about it, but it's not a fighting game. It's basically a Dragon Ball Z RPG. And people try to complain about that too, saying there's not enough RPG elements to it, but it's an open world. You can fast travel to different locations. You can even go to other planets. There's like a stat attribution thing, like where you can eat certain foods and increase certain stats and things like that to more fit your playstyle. So if you want to just sit there and spam Kamehamehas all day, you can eat the right amount of food to like increase your key attacks or whatever. There's ways to grind your level. There's ways to unlock new skills. There's like a skill tree where you got to grind up orbs to unlock better skills and things like that. So for all intents and purposes, this is an RPG game, and I won't hear otherwise. So I thought it was a lot of fun. It was fantastic. I can't talk enough good about it. The only thing I will say is on launch, they were supposed to have a time machine, so you could go back and play missions that you missed before. Or if you wanted to redo a battle, you can go back and redo a battle. It took a little while for them to roll that update out, but it was a free update, so there's not much to complain. And then there's already DLC announced for sometime this spring, so I'm ecstatic. I can't wait for it. Yeah, fantastic. I just really can't say anything else about it. I put in a good 40, 50 plus hours on this game. So that should tell you something about it. But yeah, I think that's about going to do it. So we covered the 3 games today. That was Kingdom Hearts 3, Jedi Fallen Order, and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Like I said, single player games, tons of fun. Really enjoyed them. So if I influenced your decision to purchase or play any of these games, please let me know. And until next time, see ya.